Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August 12th Tips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling. Glad to have Eric Donovan back this week.
All right, thank you very much. 5 races to bring you in 2 separate segments. We'll do 3 in the first segment, so let's get started with SKIPADATE and Veiled Prophet. This is the 8th race from August 5th, and SKIPADATE is the 6th horse, Veiled Prophet the 11. They're both going to lag toward the back of the field early on, and they're actually going to disappear from the screen a little bit on the backstretch because they're so far back. But there's significant trouble around the far turn, which we can really show you well on the head-on.
Right. Now, I don't want to mistake in this. None of us are not saying that Rogue Victory, who's in the orange, isn't necessarily the best horse in this race. But this was a race where, forgetting about all the trouble and the odd things that sort of seemed to happen, it was pretty much dominated towards the front end.
I would agree here. The pace setter in this race is Senior Henry, and Senior Henry holds on well in this race. Rogue Victory was up close to the pace as well, and the pace was, on the moderate side, definitely 24 and 3, 48 and 3 were the fractions here, and toward the back of the pack are the 2 horses we're looking at. Already the pace setting up against them, and we'll see what happens on the turn here. But already they're up against it.
Yeah, they're up against it from a dynamic standpoint, and it's possible that there's some trouble in this race that you can't even really see, and it's because of angles, and sometimes when you even view the head-ons, you can't really see horses steady. There's some other funny stuff going on in this race. That Pulpit Point, the Godolphin horse, was the 2-to-1 favorite in this race, and he ends up beating just one horse in this race, and that horse is essentially Ease, and he's in the back of the back making a little move right now. We couldn't figure that out, but sometimes you can't figure it out. It's right. There's some trouble back there, and that leads to the other trouble with our horses.
Yeah, you can't see it because there's some obstructions in the infield here at Saratoga. You got some boards, you got some trees, and the camera angle is kind of tighter up here. So we'll see him getting on the screen, and there's the 11 Veiled Prophet toward the inside, and the 6 horse toward the outside there, and SKIPADATE. And the horse to watch through the stretch here is definitely Veiled Prophet, who has some traffic trouble. You can see there. Channing Hill tries to go inside. That doesn't work. Tries to find a seam toward the outside. Here comes SKIPADATE on the outside, closing that hole on Veiled Prophet. All in all, Veiled Prophet has just a disastrous trip in here.
Yeah, I don't think either one of us is saying he would have won the race, but both of these horses had trouble. Now, obviously, SKIPADATE is the one who ran the best race of anybody because he actually had somewhat of an impact on the race. Here's somewhat of what happens in the backstretch.
There's going to be a kind of a chain reaction which starts with horses toward the front. Keep an eye on the horse in the red on the rail, maybe in about 4th or 5th right now. There's going to be some steadying going on. He's going to come out into the 10 as they get closer to the turn, and those two horses' trouble are going to affect the 2 horses we're looking at, the 6 and 11, Veiled Prophet and SKIPADATE. There you see the 10 carried out, and Veiled Prophet and SKIPADATE almost on the outside on the outside hedge.
Yeah, and I tell you something else that's interesting about this. This is a good example of why watching head-ons is important if you want to do trip handicapping, because something like that, you never saw it on the pan. If you watch the head-on, you see it. Going forward, we'll see where they show up. Maybe they run later in the meet. Maybe they run in Kentucky Downs. But both of them could be interesting in a race with more speed.
I would agree. Let's get on to our second race now, and this one, the 9th race, actually, from August 5th, so just the race after. We're taking a look at the 1, Dazzled Saint, and the 2, Never Content. Dazzled Saint coming into this race off some good polytrack form out of Presque Isle.
Yeah, and there was an abundance of speed in this race. And the interesting point is Red Rally, the 4, is the horse that clears and gets the lead. But when we show you the head-on, another case seeing the head-on, you'll be able to see why Red Rally was able to get clear the lead from both the 1 and 2, and the 1 has a nightmare trip. Not saying he was going to win, but he never had a chance.
No, never has a chance in here. Tucked away in a good spot if you could find running room through this stretch, and we'll stop and highlight it here. There's the 1, Dazzled Saint, and up front is the other horse we're taking a look at here, and that would be Never Content. But Dazzled Saint just stuck behind some horses there, has to steady, has to check, and just never able to get going. And you'll see the 2 horse in here steady, also on the turn, Never Content, and also the 3 horse in the race as well, kind of clips heels, Westover Wildcat. So a lot going on here around the turn.
Yeah, this was a good field. Bridgetown had won this race. He's coming off a second-place finish, 2 back in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Never Content, who's a big speedball, and he's compromised the start. He's compromised the whole race. Westover Wildcat, I don't know if it was a turf prep because he wanted to race. It was Tony Dutrow coming off a layoff. He almost clips heels. He interferes with Never Content. And Never Content, actually, who's really just put out of position and in trouble the whole way, he actually, I thought that, he ran sort of gamely. He never really gave up, especially considering the kind of racehorse he is.
And I thought the 1 horse in here, Dazzled Saint, the rider, just kind of didn't abuse him through the stretch there once all the trouble happened. Found himself behind horses at the top of the stretch and also kind of trapped in a little bit, too. I don't think Eric Gomez abused him at all through the stretch. We'll take a look at the head-on, and here's what you were saying. The 4 horse, how he gets the lead is because he's able to come over and kind of affect it, too.
Right. You see him come over sharply there. He forces the 2-over, goes right into the 1, and essentially, you know, he sort of compromised those horses' chance and got the lead. And we'll show you some more of the head-on around the turn, so you can see the kind of trouble. And there's the 1 steadying back there, Dazzled Saint, but also Never Content. You see what happens. It's hard to know exactly what happened with Westover Wildcat, but he must have clipped heels somewhere, and he really sort of intimidates the 2-horse Never Content.
Yeah, it looked to me like he clipped heels with the 6-horse here, possibly. You'll see it right there, going right around the turn there. You see him kind of drop a little bit there, and that definitely affects Never Content as well. So, you know, you like to save ground in these races. You like to be, you know, on the inside if you can get through. If you can't get through in one of these sprint races, you're really up against it because you don't have that much time to recover to get going.
I agree. Never Content's had sort of issues in all of his races, and they're not really his fault. He's actually run better than it looks on paper. And this is a race where I'd love to see the field reassemble for Do It One More Time. You could have a very different result here.
I would agree. One more turf sprint to bring you in this first segment here. We'll take a look at a Bilmont first-time starter. The 4 Inspired, this from August 6th, race number 6, and we'll take a look at the start. He breaks slowly, you know, causes his own problems here, but, you know, after this, things get even worse.
Yeah, and you'll really see it when we show you the head-on, but there he is breaking slowly. And Bilmont, not exactly a trainer who wins with a lot of first-time starters on either the turf or dirt, but his horses can very often improve a lot in their second starts.
Yeah, and this horse gets ranked also there. Kenton Stormer just trying to, you know, not lose too much ground and keep him inside here. But on the other hand, you're just getting ranked steady 3 or 4 times down the backstretch. Going to happen again, where she just continues to get ranked down the backstretch and really, you know, kind of has no shot after the poor break and just getting jammed up on the backstretch. Kent's trying to save ground, but you know, all in all, he's going to have to wheel her to the outside in this race to find some running room and finish up okay here. A horse that I think definitely improves second time out.
Yeah, I mean, this horse got beat, I think, less than 5 lengths in this race. Now, they've sort of come together. The first 4 horses hit the wire together in this race, and I think this was kind of a decent race. You know, in judging these maiden turf sprints, this was an okay race, and Inspire's just a horse that so much trouble at the point where nobody's going to abuse a horse that gets in that kind of trouble because they're never going to win. This horse is very likely to run a lot better second time out.
Yeah, I think this was a good race. You know, I remember going in saying I didn't really like the favorites. I thought it was kind of wide open. The favorites hadn't been on turf before in this race, and I thought there was some nice looking horses. And I think Inspired probably could turn out to be the best of the group in here, assuming that puts things together in her second start. And we'll take a look at the head on here from the gate. You just see her breaking slowly on her own. No one else caused any kind of problem for her. But you know, when you break slowly and you get behind a field and you want to try to get up into contention, if you're not taking the horse 7 or 8 wide, you got to run into these kind of traffic problems, just being jammed up inside there, and you know, the horse is just going to continually be steady and be ranked down the backstretch.
Right. Another thing to note is perhaps a situation where Kenton Stormer wants to educate the horse. He realizes he's in trouble at that point. He's a first-time starter. You jam it in behind horses. You see what happens. You get that horse to get a little bit of trouble in there, and it toughens him up perhaps for their second start. Hard to know, but that horse is likely to run better and win next time. Once again, we'd love to hear your thoughts. We could use as much help as we can get anytime, but especially up here in Saratoga where there's so much going on. It's trips and traps at NYRAinc.com.
Stay tuned for the second segment.